بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. Let me start by congratulating my dear brothers and sisters for the auspicious occasions that we have in the month of Sha'ban, the ones that we had before, and also the birthday anniversary of Imam of our time, which is coming in the next few days. May Allah grant us the opportunity, the blessing to follow the school of Ahlul Bayt. So the topic tonight, as Brother Musalla mentioned, is a theme, an understanding from insights presented by Imam alayhi salam in letter 31st of Nahj al-Balagha, talking about a life, how one can live a life with dignity and honor, what matters, to be careful, and what are the roots and the sources of certain mistakes when we slip, why we do that, why we sometimes disrespect ourselves, we let our guards down when it comes to protecting our dignity. These are some points that I will discuss it tonight based on this letter, valuable letter in Nahj al-Balagha. Imam Ali salam mentions in one phrase of Nahj al-Balagha, addresses us, addresses the ones who read this letter. وَأَكْرِمْ نَفْسَكَ عَنْ كُلِّ دَنِيَّةٍ وَإِنْ سَاقَتْكَ إِلَى الرَّغَائِبِ. Imam says, honor yourself by refraining from anything low, even if it gets you to your wishes, even if doing that low thing would provide you with opportunities to get something that you wish for a long time. So if we reflect on the decisions that we made so far in our lives, there are those circumstances that we are presented with a choice, that one option could offer us certain opportunities that we hope for, but at the cost of something that we value as our moral, as something that defines our religious identity, for example. Sometimes this happens. There are so many examples of such circumstances happens for the people. For example, someone who works in a government office offered her dream job. If kept silent about a corruption that she happens to discover, so one's offered a choice. You get promoted to something that you longed for last few years, hoping to get that position. You are offered that position at the cost of something, a bit of your honor. Keep silent about a wrong action that you are aware of. Someone gets a job in a private company, pays well, everything is perfect. Boss calls him, asks him to the office, and has a request: a spy for me. Be my spy, a spy on my employees. Go to their private life, privacy, even if necessary. You do that, your salary get doubled. You don't do that, you are fired. again, a choice. One side is something that, from the material perspective, a good salary gets doubled. You get the trust of your boss, the head of the company, but at the cost of doing something that you do not like to see yourself in that position, to be a spy, to spy on your friends, your colleagues, in their private lives. Or think about an instance. Many of these examples that I tell you, they have real stories behind. Think about this Muslim woman who gets an offer of a dream job or excellent education opportunity, but only if she is willing to cross some of her religious boundaries and let her religious identity to be undermined. So these are some of the examples of what Imam talks about. So sometimes you just need to go to do something low that normally you are not a person to do that, to get something that you wish for, or to avoid something that you are afraid of. Imam says, if that's the case, protect your dignity. No matter what is offered to you, don't get the bite. Make sure that you stand for your morals. You stand for your dignity, no matter what is the cost. Why? Imam Ali says, because if you accept that, yes, you may get your salary doubled. You may get your dream job. You may get that excellent education opportunity. However, what you lose is much more valuable than what you get. Imam alayhi mentions, فَإِنَّكَ لَن تَعْتَاضَ بِمَا تَبْذُلْ مِن نَفْسِكَ عِوَضًا. Because if you do that, your desires, should be aware that your desires and wishes can be satisfied in a different way, can be satisfied in other ways later on. You may get that job later on, even if you don't comply with your boss request, with your political party's request. You may get a better job somewhere else. So what you lose here, those material gains, you will have opportunities to get them back. However, there is no compensation for what you lose of your honor and dignity. You lose it. It's very difficult to take it back. In other words, we are who we are. Our identity is the product of our choices. We make ourselves step by step by the choices we make. We can elevate ourselves and go beyond angels if we are determined. And that's the purpose of creation of human being. وَإِذْ قُلْنَا لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ اسْجُدُوا لِآدَمَ فَسَجَدُوا إِلَّا إِبْلِيسَ أَبَى وَاسْتَكْبَرَ وَكَانَ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ. Chapter Baqarah, verse 34. When Allah asked the angels to prostrate in front of, before Adam, to show him respect. So it is why, because human being can be representative of divine. إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. But if we go astray, if we lose those opportunities, if we neglect our spiritual capacity and needs, Again, our choices makes us not, so if we make wrong choices, we will not go above angels, rather we will bring ourselves down even below the animals, below the livestock, cattle. It's the verse of Quran again. It's chapter 4, verse 44. أم تحسب أن أكثرهم يسمعون أو يعقلون إنهم إلا كالأنعام بل هم أضل سبيلا. The ones who don't listen, the ones who don't think properly, don't reflect. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you know, they are not the ones that I hope to be above angels. Their status goes even lower than animals. So it is my choices that will make me who I will be for eternity. Which path I'm taking? Path of angels or the other path around? So the point is that having high self-esteem is linked to maintaining a religious life, a righteous life, to maintaining someone's dignity. Once we let ourselves down, we let our dignity undermined, we let our moral standards go loose. Once we do that, there is no guarantee that we can stand by our values anymore, that we can get back what we lost. There are so many people, so many examples in the history of the ones who started going astray by simple mistakes, by simply covering for a right deed, turning a blind eye on an act of injustice that one could prevent. Just making simple mistakes may be called something trivial, but one by one, if we disrespect ourselves and let ourselves go down, let our soul to get used to doing low things, that's when we end up being accomplices in much bigger crimes, abandoning our morals forever. So Imam Ali says, watch and be careful of the cost of accepting an offer that requires you to do something that is against your dignity, against your morals, something that would go against your religious identity, against your human identity. And Imam, in another part of the letter, he emphasizes that what you gain in return of making such a mistake, in return of committing something low, has no value, even if you think otherwise. So Imam alayhi salam says, وَمَا خَيْرٌ لَا يُنَالُ إِلَّا بِشَرٍ وَيُسْرٍ لَا يُنَالُ إِلَّا بِعُسْرٍ. So what's the benefit in such a thing that we think it to be good, that we see it an opportunity, if it cannot be achieved unless by taking a wrong step? What's good in it? If for getting it you have to tell a lie, if for getting it you have to accept a bribe, if for getting it you have to cover for something wrong, Imam says, what's good in it? You have to disgrace yourself to get something, and that something has no value anymore. It's an ethical perspective. It's a very important point that Imam Ali mentions. It looks the Islamic view and some moral principles. So the idea that we heard a lot, this idea that many people, even today, they uphold as something respected, something accepted, that you do lesser evil for greater good. And that's justified for many people. But what Imam Ali salam says offers different perspective. No, that greater good, that for achieving it, you have to commit a lesser evil, is not good anymore. So having a good end does not justify committing sins, mistakes, violating people's rights because I have a greater good in mind. That's the perspective that Ali alayhi salam mentions in this letter. Also, what Imam alayhi salam mentions when he says that if you take the wrong step, what you get has no value, may speak to another teaching. We may speak to the conclusion of your action. That Imam alayhi salam wants to say that if you take the wrong step to get something, you may never get what you wish for. You may think that you got what makes your life happy, but it will turn out later that it is the one that gets your life miserable. So it's maybe it goes in line with what Imam Hussein alayhi salam says in a narration, very beautiful one. Imam alayhi salam says, "Man hawala amran bima'siyatillah." Whoever tries to get something, attempts to get something, to reach an opportunity, to obtain a long-lasted wish, obtain something that he wished for a long time. However, he did it by taking a wrong step, by committing a sin. Man hawala amran bima'siyatillah. Imam alayhi salam says, be aware that what you did kan afwat lima yarju asra' lima yahdar. What you wish for will get much far away from you. You did this to get a better job and you get happiness in your life, but by making this mistake, happiness went far away from your life. You have much longer life, much longer way to get to happiness. وَأَسْرَعْ لِمَا يَحْذَرْ. And what you are afraid of, and because of that fear you made this mistake, that desperate consequence gets much closer to you because you disobeyed your Lord to get that, or to avoid that fear. And you forgot that he is the one who is the sole authority in the world of what happens. Very beautiful insight. So if you put the narration of Imam Hussein next to one that Amir al-Mu'minin mentioned, we'll understand why Ali says what you get by doing a wrong step, by taking a wrong step, has no value. Because Hussein says, what if you did it for happiness, happiness goes far away from you. If you did it to avoid some evil, some undesirable consequences, those consequences get much closer to you. The moment you take your step to the wrong path, the moment you decide to disobey your Lord to get what you want. Imam alayhi salam, what I would say, maybe the second point, the second premise about living an honorable life. So what Imam alayhi salam mentioned right now is that no matter what you are offered, if it is at the cost of doing something low against your dignity, let it go. Don't take it. It doesn't worth it. And then Imam alayhi salam continues telling us that وَلَا تَكُنْ عَبْدَ غَيْرِكَ وَقَدْ جَعَلَكَ اللَّهُ حُرًّا. Don't be slave to others, because for Allah made you free. Allah created you free. Do not put yourself in a position when you become someone's slave, doing someone's bids and wishes, and whatever they ask for. Don't be someone's slave. And the point is, Imam Ali says, if you do that, if you put yourself in a position that you have no choice but to obey the orders coming from those authorities from above, from your boss, whoever, it undermines the very character that makes us human. Free will, freedom to decide for ourselves. That's what makes us distinguished from angels. Because humans can make decisions, they're free to pick their path. And Ali says, don't let this freedom that makes your identity gets snatched away from you. Don't be someone's slave. Don't be errand boy for someone. Do whatever he asks. Do not live under someone's authority who does not recognize your independence, does not take no for an answer, no matter how much you are offered for taking that job, for taking that opportunity, for taking that responsibility. Maybe that's another perspective we can understand the famous quote from Imam Hussein alayhi salam, when he saw that the army of Umar Sa'di are approaching the tents, and the Hussein's family were there. Imam shouted, called them, and lam yakum lakum dinun wa kuntum la takhafun al-ma'ad. If you don't have any faith, if you are not afraid of the day of judgment, fakunu ahraran fi dunyakum hadhi. Be free in this material world. At least that's what you can do. What does it mean to be free? Do not obey blindly the orders of your commanders. Think for yourself what you are doing. You are attacking the family of Ahlul Bayt, the family of the Prophet. You are attacking women, children who have no protection. Just think for yourself as humans. Is this something you want yourself to bring yourself down to do it? So that's again the point. Having the freedom, having the possibility, having this choice of acting as a human, to evaluate our actions, to think what is the best that we have to do. Imam alayhi salam then explain further, and he mentions a very important point. Imam alayhi salam says, not only don't be a slave to anyone, if you can, وَإِنِ اسْتَطَعْتَ أَنْ لَا يَكُونَ بَيْنَكَ وَبَيْنَ اللَّهِ ذُو نِعْمَةٍ فَافْعَلْ. If you can live a life that you are not making choices that would make you indebted to others, if you can live a life that no medium is between you and your Lord, when you receive his blessings, no one here is in between, so for you to be indebted to him. If you can live a life that you are in debt to no one, live that life, take that path. So there are many examples of trivial, maybe even common, casual things that happen to us. I want to buy a car, a house. Sometimes we have options. One option is the one that I can afford. smaller house, maybe a car which is not the newest model, maybe a used car even, but that satisfies my need, and I don't need to ask for someone's financial help. There's the other choice: bigger house, a newer model of car, but I need to ask for a loan from my family, my friends, so on and so forth. Imam Ali says, if you are between these choices, take the one that does not require you to become indebted to someone. Be content with what you can afford. If I have the option of starting a small business, the other option to ask a relative who owns a big company to take me under his wing, higher salary, prestigious, but I would be indebted to him forever. So why Imam says, if that's the case, if you are given such a choice, go for the one that doesn't require you to become indebted to others. Maybe one of the reasons that I can't think of is that the more I get indebted to others, the less freedom I will have in making my decisions later. For example, I will find it more difficult to reject those people who are indebted to if they ask for an unlawful or a wrong request, and I want to reject it because I see accepting those requests against my morals, favoring someone in the process of hiring while there are other candidates who are more deserving. But I'm indebted to someone who presented this request. Take my son, take my friend. So it's an obscure that limits my choices, limits my freedom. Mom says, don't expose yourself to those situations. Sometimes I will be more hesitant to tell a truth if I know that telling the truth would make in trouble someone whom I'm indebted to. And it was a trick that even if you look at some historical accounts that we have, for example, Muawiyah was using this, giving higher share of public treasury to some of well-known companions or the companions of the Prophet or influential figures, making them indebted to him so that they keep silent when Muawiyah crosses boundaries, when Muawiyah starts to challenge Ali, when Muawiyah starts to change, modify Islamic teaching to his benefit, to his advantage. Imam says, again, don't expose yourself to those situations. I will more likely stand against injustice if I'm in no way indebted to anyone who practice injustice, a ruler, a rule, influential person, whoever. I would be free in making my choices if I'm not indebted to him. Something to keep in mind is that when we are talking about having a life, trying to, Imam Islam says, try your best to live a life in which you are not indebted to others. So the question is, can we have such a life in which we are indebted to no one? There are traditions or hadiths that seems to imply otherwise. For example, we have this narration, this hadith from Imam Sajjad alayhi salam. Someone came to his presence and he did a dua, Allahumma aghnini an khalqik. Oh Allah, make me not having indebted or need anyone of your people, of your creation. So you be the sole source who provide for me. Imam alayhi salam corrected him. لَيْسَ هَكَذَا إِنَّمَا النَّاسُ بِالنَّاسِ. It is not the correct dua, the right dua, because it is the wisdom of Allah that the matters of this world, that the whatever we do this in this world is involved. We are involved with other people. We cannot live by ourselves without the help of the others, or without being in a society. We help them, they help us. That's something part of our life. Then Imam alayhi salam corrected him, saying that وَلَكِنْ قُلْ اللَّهُمَّ أَغْنِنِي عَنْ شَرَارِ خَلْقِكَ. It's okay. Instead, if you say, oh Allah, help me to not be indebted to your bad people, to the bad creation, those bad people who make me, who ask me, who put me in difficult situations like theirs. So that's a very good point. So the point is, the question is, how we can understand the advice of Imam Sajjad alayhi salam when we put it next to the advice of Ali alayhi salam. Ali alayhi salam says, if you can make choices that you are indebted to no one in your life, do it. And Imam Sajjad alayhi salam says, you cannot have a life in which people have no role. You are indebted to no one. How we can make sense of this too? For sure, we have parents, we have teachers, we are indebted to, whether we like it or not. It seems that Imam alayhi salam, what Imam alayhi salam, Ali alayhi salam emphasizes is to keep the minimum, because that's why Imam says, if you have a choice, if you have a choice, if you can make a decision, is on something that, so you can pick one of either, that one option will make you indebted to several people, and the others you get less, but you are independent, stand on your own feet. Imam says, go for the latter. So in those circumstances that you have choice, and his advice is completed by the insight of Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, that when you have no choice, and when you have to go and ask for people's help and aid, that's fine. But in those cases, go for the right people, for the righteous people, who will not get back to you later with unjustified expectations. Make sure if you are going to ask someone, if you have no choice but to ask for someone's help, ask for the righteous people's help, who will not have expectations later. That's a very beautiful point that Imam Sajjad alayhi salam adds here, adds to enrich our discussion. So what I'm going to finish my discussion about this theme in the letter 31st is how to treat this problem. In other words, why do people subject themselves to demands that undermines their dignity? What makes them to do that? And how we can treat it, how we can make sure that we do not fall in the same trap, that we do not make the same mistake. Ali alayhi salam, in some other phrases of his letter, he provides a solution. Avoid greed and seeking far away wishes, those long wishes that you have to sacrifice so many to get there. Imam alayhi salam says, وَإِيَّاكَ أَن تُوجِفَ بِكَ مَطَايَ التَّمَاءِ فَتُورِدَكَ مَنَاحِلَ الْحَلَكَةِ. Imam says, avoid, be wary, avoid that those carriers of greed take you to the roots of destruction. Don't let greed carries you to destruction. Watch for your greeds. refrain, control it, suppress it. And it's, if we reflect, in many cases when we make those wrong choices, when we sacrifice our dignity, our honor, it is to get something. It's a matter of greed, something that we had an eye on it for a long time. And then the opportunity comes, but at a cost of our honor, a cost of our dignity. And Imam Ali salam mentions further, so what Imam suggests to avoid such pitfalls is also to fix our worldview, to look with right glasses. Imam Ali salam says, if you look in the course of history, وَعْلَمْ يَقِينًا أَنَّكَ لَن تَبْلُغَ أَمَلَكَ وَلَن تَعْدُوَ أَجَلَكَ وَأَنَّكَ فِي سَبِيلِ مَنْ كَانَ قَبْلَكَ. Be aware that in the course of history, neither anyone reached all his material wishes, nor he was able to run away from death. It is the nature of this world. No matter how much you try, you will never reach all of your wishes. And no matter how smart you are, you cannot run away from death. So be aware that this material world is just a temporary station. If we know it's temporary, if we know that it's just something not to be too much attached to, then I will not sacrifice my dignity and honor for its sake, for something temporary that there is no guarantee that even if I sacrifice my dignity, I will get it. And then Imam alayhi salam, in another part of his advice, he mentions that فَخَفِّضْ فِي الطَّلَبِ وَأَجْمِلْ فِي الْمُكْتَسَبِ. In other words, be content with what satisfies your need. Be humble in seeking, and be content with what suffices, what is enough for you. Be content with it. Do not go for more and more. Control and take control of your greed. Because Imam Ali salam then explains, فَإِنَّهُ رُبَّ طَلَبٍ قَدْ جَرَّ إِلَى حَرْبٍ. Sometimes these desires can lead to a war, can lead to destruction. فَلَيْسَ كُلُّ طَالِبٍ بِمَرْزُوقٍ وَلَا كُلُّ مُجْمِلٍ بِمَحْرُومٍ. That's not the case. Neither everyone who seeks finds, nor whoever is content would be deprived. So that's not the case. Don't think that if you are seeking something, you put all of your might and power to get something, you will reach it. No, that's not the case. And don't think if you are content, it means that you will be deprived from many opportunities that this material world provides. You might be content, but still Allah provides for you, opens the door to some of those that Allah sees to your benefit. And then Imam alayhi salam remind us again, فَإِنَّكَ مُدْرِكٌ قِسْمَكَ وَآخِذٌ سَحْمَكَ. Because in any case, no matter what happens in this material world, you will get your share. You have your share of rizq, sustenance, Allah determined for you. No matter what happens, you get your share. You get what Allah determined for you. Don't worry about it. So don't commit a sin. Don't take a wrong step to take it. Because if it's meant to be yours, Allah will open the doors for you to get it. If it is not meant to be yours, you will not get it. Even if you get it, that will put you in a miserable life, a miserable situation, because that was something that you can't keep it. It's not yours. وإن اليسير من الله سبحانه أعظم وأكرم من الكثير من خلقه وإن كان كل منه. Imam says that although that everything is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, everything in this world, but the one that little, what so-called little that Allah gives you directly, without you taking a wrong step, without you making yourself indebted to the others, that worth much more and glorifies more, honors much more than receiving a lot from the people and you get indebted to them. In other words, a little with the blessings from Allah would make your life much happier than a lot than you get from people at the cost of your dignity. So that's maybe the insight, the very beautiful advice of Ali alayhi salam that I tried to elaborate using some phrases from letter 31st of Nahj al-Balagha. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the blessing to follow these beautiful teachings and to let them enlighten our heart and our lives, inshallah. Please recite a salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Thank you so much, Brother Doagoo, as always. Wonderful.